Okay, welcome back to Lunacco. I'm Jules, and today we're going to be doing a tour of v2.1.1 of paging Poly. So it was going to be 2.1.0, but as usual, I was doing tour videos and how-to videos on the new features, and I came across a couple glitches that I had to fix. So we are now in 2.1.1 is the update that you'll be getting, and we're going to go step by step through the changelog and give you a tour of the new features. And then we're also going to be doing smaller videos about some of the features on as like standalone so that if you just need a refresher, you can watch those videos. We are still working on having true documentation for everything, and I'm just waiting a little bit longer to push that out so that we have a really good base of everything that we need to teach you guys how to do with Poly so that we can put that out on the main site. Okay, so we're just going to go step by step through here. So the very first one is a video that will be definitely coming out on its own. I've already filmed it. It is better error handling, which doesn't seem like a very flashy, fancy situation here, but it is going to be really helpful for you guys when something goes wrong. You're going to have a way better idea of what went wrong. So before, if there was an empty generation, it would just tell you that there was an empty generation to make sure your API key is good to go, try a different model, etc., etc. It wouldn't tell you exactly what had happened. Now it will tell you what happened, and it will also save to the empty generation log. So there's a generation log that is created even when no response comes back. And so now when no response comes back except for an error, it saves the error, which is very important for us to be able to offer customer service. So you don't have to guess what that error pop-up was. You can go to the generation log and figure that out. So I'm going to demonstrate that really quickly. And I actually think I might be lucky because I think, let me just, oh, actually, is this, oh, this is the local one. Hold on, let me switch. Okay. This is my live site. And then I have the local site for showing you the comment features that we've just added. So I'm going to open up Outline. This is my go-to test for a lot of these. And I believe that fast free is no longer available. So if I come here, because I haven't refreshed models on this site since the last update, and when you don't refresh on a daily or every other day basis, and you can refresh models right here. Now, that's another addition. So we added a refresh model to the AI model settings. You don't have to go back into settings in order to do that now. But if I haven't done this and certain models become unavailable, especially like the cloaked models and things like that, or free previews like this one, then an old endpoint can be there, but it won't go through. So let's see, because I believe that this one has been deprecated. So if I hit go and go, yep, no endpoints found for AI Grok 4.1 fast free, because now it's just the 4.1 fast. So that is going to be one that you probably will come across a decent amount depending on how quickly or how often you're doing refreshing of models. The reason we don't do an automatic refresh is just because honestly the models don't change all that often, and so it's one less call that is being pulled. But now if you see no endpoints exist, oh, this model doesn't exist anymore. Okay, so that said that. So I'm going to come back into settings and we're going to do a refresh model back here. That took a little bit longer, and I think that should be better. So if we come back here, and yes, now the select model is gone. So we will be updating that in the next update. So know if you need to refresh model, do it from the back settings. We will be updating that probably in 2.1.2 or 3. And then you would just click into one of the other ones. And once this saves, and I'm going to switch to fast instead of classic. Quick. Thank you. And boom, it will eventually go through. It looks like the OSS is usually pretty fast. There we go. So now we have a generation. So the endpoint doesn't exist is definitely one you're probably going to come across a fair amount. So I have a bad key here. So I'm going to put in my bad key. Okay, and I'm going to hit save API key. And it won't tell you there's an error yet, but if I hit test connection, that's an invalid key. And if I come back into project and I try this prompt again, boom, user not found, invalid API key. Another one that I did find that you'll see in the actual video dedicated just to the errors is rate limited. On some of the free models and also on some of the larger models, rate limiting does happen. So if you're doing a bunch of prompts back to back, maybe you're using the autoplay and the sequencer, then you could be rate limited. So that's another one. You just pick a different model. And then I'm going to come back here before I forget and switch this back to my good key, because I have done that to myself multiple times testing these. So if I test connection again, and that is valid, yay. I do believe also, because you can set budgets on keys. So if I come in here in keys, you can set budgets. So like this one has $1 on it. You can set budgets, and I do believe it would tell you not invalid, but I think it would actually tell you that you're at budget or over budget. I haven't been able to test that yet because I think the minimum budget you can set is $1. Given how I use AI, like that would take me a little bit. Like it would probably take me some blueprinting and some chapter drafting to get to that $1. But that is something that I'm going to be testing. Okay. So that is the better error system. Oh, and let me just show you really quickly. So the last two couple of prompts, so these show as the input and it shows as the output 0. These are errors. So if I click the little eye guy and I minimize those, if I go to response, it says error user not found, invalid API key. I can hit copy, and then I can send this to Jules in Discord to say, hey, what does this mean if I don't understand what it is? Or I'm reaching this prompt a lot, or this error a lot. And same thing, I can copy, and then I can paste it or send it to support. So that is really nice because I don't know about you guys, but being neurodivergent and seeing something like that where I'm like, oh, I have no idea what that said. I think it said something like XYZ. Not 100% sure. Sorry, but now we have an actual way for you to be able to grab those errors as they come up. Okay, coming back to project. Let's go into system prompts update. Okay, so I can hit edit from here, and this will be edit project, or I can select it from the library with the 3-dot menu, edit. If I scroll down, instead of just the box like there is for the description synopsis, now there is a box, but there is also a little drop down here. And so I can grab this. This is already the one that was in there. Here, I'll do this. So this is testing. You're a writing assistant. So I can grab this and I can just write in here. And then if I do that, then I can name this prompt and I can save it to library, and it will save as a system prompt library from here. So if you are grabbing a new one from another model or some saved prompt, you can then save it to your library so that you can use them. Another really nice thing about this that I actually thought about today is, so this would be something that I would generally do, is I would have a system prompt for the whole project, and that system prompt would apply to the blueprinting, and it would also apply to my drafting process. So I wouldn't change the system prompt whether I was blueprinting or drafting. But if you wanted to minimize like how many words this is, I think this is probably about 600 words here. If you wanted to minimize that, you could very easily set a system prompt for a genre just for blueprinting, just for ideation, just for brainstorm, and then set another one in that genre for actually doing the writing and editing. Or you could do one for brainstorm, blueprint, one for writing and drafting, and then you could do one for editing. And then you could just very easily swap, because again, you can swap from inside of the project right here. So that is very easy to do. And here, I'll just do that and save changes for this one. And here we go. If I open up this one there. So that is very easy to do now. And you can also access those from and import them in your prompt library. It's just a new category. So system prompts will be the category. I will be giving you guys a couple general ones in the defaults moving forward. I actually didn't update the defaults. I'm just thinking about that with version 2.1.1. I have not updated the defaults yet. So in the Discord, there will be some JSON files for you guys that are in the Discord that you can grab and import in or copy paste. So that is something that will be also added into 2.2 or 2.1.2, whatever. All right, let's see. Unlink. Okay, so we also have series support. So these are actually part of a series, book 1, book 2. So if I open up this one, this is my book 1. And if I come here and I add to the 3 dots, I can say share to series. I can do a link or I can do a copy. If I do a copy, then it is independent. So it does a copy over one time. The files are not synced. So if I make changes in book 1, that does not show in book 2 and vice versa. If I have it linked, then I can only edit it in the project that it originated from, I can't edit it in the one that I'm sending to, which would be coming soon in this case. So I'm going to share. And then if I come back out here and I go to coming soon, now there's this little link guy right here. So this is coming from the other book in the series right now. And it is attached here, and you'll see here it says read only, linked from another project. If I don't want that anymore, if I don't want this linked anymore, maybe I don't need it, I have two options. I can duplicate this as a local file, or I can unlink this file. If I click unlink, I can still create a local copy here, or I can just remove from this book. So I'm just going to remove from this book, and boom, it's gone. So before, it would automatically save as a local copy before unlinking, and now you have the option to do one or the other. So that's a nice little update there. We also added shift click for multiple select in the document tree. This was something that I was coming across not, is if I wanted to move multiple files into a folder or into the trash, there was no shift and hold to grab multiple files. So if I click here and then I hold down shift on my keyboard and then I click lower, now all three of these are highlighted. I know for sure they're highlighted, not only visually, but this now says 3 selected. I can click here and I can move to root level. I can move to the manuscript folder, so I can move to a folder or to the root level of the document tree, or I can trash them, or this X deselects them. I can also drag them into a folder or into the trash. So that's just another nice little quality of life if you're moving multiple files. Like I know for me, sometimes I will do multiple versions of a chapter, and then I want to move that into a different folder so that they're not in my manuscript folder anymore. And so this would be a really good use case for that. And if I hit X, then they're no longer selected. Just another nice little quality of life. Another quality of life improvement is here. This is focus mode. Focus mode now hides the header as well as the sidebar, not just the header. So you don't have to do 2 clicks to get into a full focus mode now, which is a nice little addition. Another thing that you guys probably won't actually, let me see if I have an example of this. Do I have an outline? Okay, hold on. Let me switch over here so that I have an outline, hopefully. Here we go. So with outlines, the outline file parses to our corkboard. So this is probably something that I'm going to hide. That was a sneak preview of something else. So this parses to the corkboard as chapters and as scenes. And it does that based on the header. So this is H1. So this is showing us that this is an outline file coming from Blueprint. And this, Act 2, is actually a pound is an H2. So in Markdown, that's 2 hashes and a space. And previously, 2 hashes and a space were the chapters instead of the acts. So this is backwards compatible. So if I actually duplicate this guy down here at the bottom, and I remove this act, so I'm going to remove all of this, and this is testing our new tension mapping. Okay, so if I delete all that, this is a H3 right now. And so if I select this, come here, this says H3, I would switch this to H2. And then I would come down, and I would do the same thing for chapter 2. Because if I come here, chapter 1 is there. This is interesting because this is showing, so this is showing chapter 2, 3, and 4 evidently are already H3s. So H3s, if you're just using chapter and scene, H3 is a scene, not a chapter. So that is where we're changing. Here we come here, and we're going to change him to H2. Change this one to H2. And I think this was the last one that had H3. And if I come here, now we have 8 chapters, no scenes. So it is backwards compatible. So if you're not using acts, then chapters say H2, scenes stay H3. If you're using acts, then you would have acts as H2, chapters as H3, and scenes as H4. But it is backwards compatible, so you can go either way. It just depends. You can't mix and match. So you can't have one act with chapters and scenes and then have the other acts not present and just do chapters and scenes with the other format. You can't mix and match. You have to pick one or the other, but it is backwards compatible. Okay, and now we're going to go into, coming back here, we're going to go into our table of contents. So this was another one for me, especially in outline and blueprints. Sometimes those files can be absolutely massive. For instance, do I have one in here? I don't think I have one in here. It must be in here. Let me go to library. Here we go. So I have a blueprint file in here that is actually over 20,000 words. Okay, so this is a very large file. And if I have to find something, I could be scrolling for a while. So table of contents is just a really nice feature add so that I can go, okay, these are my characters. See, here are my side characters. I can jump to that. And we have individual side characters here. I can grab to locations and then I can look at lore. And this just makes it really easy to bounce around so that you don't have to worry about trying to scroll and find things or doing like a find situation, just to have a better area of your project. So that is really nice, especially for blueprints and outlines, because those files can be beasts. All right, and it goes by headings if you hadn't noticed. So this is an H1, H2, H3, and so forth. It is also draggable, and you can then close out of it. It is always available from your toolbar. It's right here. It says show table of contents. The other nice thing is we have now added scroll and cursor memory. Actually, that is actually just cursor memory because the scroll wasn't working properly, and that was the glitch that I fixed today. So we have cursor memory. So what that means is I am right here on world build. If I come to blueprint 2, I'm at 12 dates. If I come back here, I'm at world build. It tucked underneath because there is a warning about the document size being 20,000 words because that is getting close to the max out for a document. And so there's a little warning saying you should probably split this into smaller chapters or files. But it comes to world build. If I go to settings and I go back to project, still world build. Again, it's hiding right now just because of this little guy. But if I scroll just a little bit, you can see that's world build. And actually, here, let me switch to this one because that's probably going to be easier. So this is 12 dates. If I come out to library, this is my last open. I'll go over that in a second. And boom, 12 dates is right there. So it now has persistence. It will remember the cursor location. This is browser storage. So if you clear your cache, it will erase those cursor positions because it is based on your browser cache. But it is going to be good as long as the cache on your browser is staying put. Okay. Another thing, we just added some fix of some of our Markdown issues. There were a couple things that were happening potentially on generated or copied in or pasted in text, but we fixed that, which is a minor thing that most of you are not going to notice. We did add, wrong project. Let me go back out to outline. We added table rendering for Markdown. So this is actually a Markdown table, and it now renders as a proper table in the browser, which is just a really nice little feature add, and it just looks a lot nicer and is really a lot easier to read. This type of table would be easy to read probably in Markdown, but this, not so much. So I'm actually going to show you in chapter 1. If I come here, so this is what a Markdown table actually looks like. And again, this one's pretty easy to read, but this one gets a little bit trickier. So this is something that we have now fixed and is no longer rendering this way. And this is actually, I should check because that is loading that way in there. But if you come here, it is not loading improperly for the render. So that was one of the other things that we fixed with the Markdown. Okay. Okay, another one that is really exciting for me personally that I am stoked about is if you come to generation logs, this used to be a tokenizer token listing. Hopefully that makes sense. This used to be tokenizer tokens, not actual use of OpenRudder. So if I come to activity, we'll have to see, I don't remember what project. Okay, so these are all paging poly. Okay, here we go. So if you look here, so these, some of these are messed up because they were stopped by me. So those aren't actually very accurate. But if you look here, 461.266 should be 461.266. These ones aren't exact because I had them stopped. And if they are stopped prematurely, then especially if there was no response, the response actually holds the tokens. So those aren't going to list correctly, just FYI. Same with any empty generation. Those are going to be tokenizer values, not the actual values. So that's why those don't match. But this one does because this went through properly. It was one of my tests. So this is now a match 1-to-1, again, unless you have stopped the generation for some reason or had some issue there. But 99% of your use case is now going to be 100% matched to your OpenRudder activity. And because of that, your total costs for projects, if I come back out here, the total costs on projects is going to be exactly the same as your OpenRouter usage. So that number is going to be 100% accurate. Before, in order to do that, you would have to, at the end of your day, you'd have to come into the generations that you use. You'd have to click the eye, and you'd have to open your OpenRouter in another tab, and you'd have to match those up manually. You don't have to do that anymore. Those are real numbers coming from OpenRouter directly. That was something that took a ridiculous amount of time to figure out, but I am super stoked about it because I used to chart those myself because I'm a businesswoman. I wanted to know my averages per chapter. I wanted to know my averages for brainstorming. I wanted to know my overall average for completed books, written and edited all the way through. And so what I was doing is, I'll pause here and I'll open up my Notion. Hold on. So I had a Notion like this, actually. Go away. There we go. So I had a Notion like this, and this actually shows from the chapters. I had chapters, and then I had model scene tests, and I had I think I had like model runs as well. And I had the AI models. So the AI models tracked the cost of the models and their context limit. And then I had a model run that would show per generation. And then I had it tied to chapters so that I could see how much the chapters were costing. So you can see here for one of my projects, this was 47 cents for chapters 1 through 6, and then 16 cents for 7 through 8, so that I could get totals for the books as a general. So if I look here, and so this would allow me to get totals, essentially. And so I had word count, and then I had cost, and then I had model runs later. And this is model run, so I would do each run, or I'd accumulate the runs so that I'd have token in, token out. And then based on the input per million and output per million, it would calculate the cost for me. This is a lot clunkier, I think we can agree, than being able to have the generation logs just work and give you those details without you having to do absolutely anything else to get there. And now let me go back to paging poly in this one. Okay. So that has been something that I've been wanting for a very long time for poly, and we finally got there. Okay. And now we get into the biggest feature updates, I would say by far, which are the collab features. So these have been coming for a long time. And I know some of you will be very excited that you'll be able to do this. You'll be able to share with editors now, where you can give them access to your API key if it's a business partner, or you can keep them from using your API key. They'll have to use their own if they want to use AI in Poly. And so this is a pretty big feature update. And that is why I have my local one open. So if I come back out here, actually, this is the WP admin. So now there is a collaboration page in the WP admin. And if I come here, it will show resources I'm sharing. It shows there's 2 projects. One project is view only. And then, this one is view only. They can comment, they can see all comments. They can only view the manuscript folder. They can't see any of the brainstorm, any of the other folders or files. They can only see manuscript, and they can view it. They cannot edit. This one, they can edit, they can comment, they can see all comments, and they can view. Okay. And then I'm actually going to show you really quickly. I'm going to do an add share. I'm going to select the other user, and I'm going to do API key, can use API. And then we are going to create share created successfully. So now I've shared 2 projects and an API key with my other user. This other user, I'm actually going to go all users really quickly. So this is the main admin, which by the way, never do a username of admin. This is a local site that is not live, so I can do that on here. I would never ever do that on a live site. Don't do that if you have a live site, FYI. Create like a random string of letters and numbers here. But I have admin, and then I have this other account. This other account, you will see here, role is editor. So it used to be Paging Poly was only available to admin users. It is now available to admin or editor users. So the editor view of the WP admin looks very different. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to that. So this is Paging Poly for that user. And if I come to settings and go to backend, oh, that says admin, I think. I'm going to have to update that. There we go. Because it automatically thinks you're an admin to go back to the admin, which we're not. We're an editor on this one. So you'll see here, I only have access to 2 of the Paging Poly pages. I have the access to the main Paging Poly, which shows Open Paging Poly and Manage Collaboration. Collaboration is the only other one I have. Resources I'm sharing 1 project with the main admin user, and then shared with me API key and 2 projects. You can also send prompts to other users, it is worth noting that your themes are universal, they're site-wide. So any of your themes that you create will also be accessible to the other user. You don't have to share those manually, just prompts and sequences. So you can import the default prompts and sequences for a user. So I could select this user and import default prompts. That would be silly because this is the main admin. So you do that on the admin side, or you can send all of your prompts. So if you have a bunch of prompts that you want to share, I would presume mainly with a co-author or a business partner, you can send them your entire prompt library, or you can just import the defaults for them. So then we're going to come back here and I'm going to go to library. So we have a couple projects from the other user, and then I have my project that is here. So in the next couple of updates, there's going to be a visual somewhere on the project cards if it's something that was shared with you versus something that is your own personal project. But right now we just have this, but there is some indicators inside. Excuse me. Okay. So this is, I believe, this is the view only. Yes. So this shows view only, and it was shared by Jules D. So if you'll notice here, I can highlight text. I cannot do anything else with it. I can't make edits. Okay. And I can also comment. So if you're commenting, you want to highlight what you're commenting on. So I'm going to highlight this. And then this is a comment. That comment, it will show the text that I highlighted as a reference, and then it will show my comment. And then I can edit or delete my comments, but you cannot edit or delete other users' comments unless you're an admin. You can delete those comments. You can only edit your own, though, admin or editor user. Okay, so that is really nice. And also if I click here, it will scroll to where that comment is, which is just another nice little feature add. So I can still add comments because comments was something that the initial owner of this project gave me permission to do, was to comment and to see all comments, not only my own. So if I didn't have see all comments, then I wouldn't see anybody's comments except mine. Okay, and we're gonna come back out to library. I'm gonna show you this one. Let's see. Oh, this loaded the old one. There we go. And do I have... Now you will see there was a lock on that file. So if I come here and I come back over here and I'm going to open this file and I am going to open the outline. So you will see here, this says locked by collab test. You are in read-only mode. So this is to prevent overwriting. So this is to make sure that if somebody else is in this document, A, somebody else is in the document, and who, and two, you don't accidentally start making major changes that you or the other person could lose their changes because that is their editing as well. So if you are the owner, the original owner of the project, you can take over editing. So I'm going to take over editing. This project is shared with you only. You cannot save changes. Yes. So that's taking over. And then if I come back over here, it is now locked by Jules. You are in read-only mode. Notice there is no takeover editing because the owner of that project now has access instead of just me. So that is a really nice little feature to make sure that you aren't overwriting on files that are being shared. And then if I come here, let me go back to the project that we were sharing with them, Test Romance. And here we've got a comment. So if I look here, you will see here I can delete that comment, but I can't edit that comment. And I can do replies. This is a reply. And that shows me I can edit that. And then if I come back over here, I'm just opening everything. You can see I now have a reply to that. I cannot delete or edit that because I'm not an admin user. I can delete my own comment or edit my own original comment. And that is pretty much, oh, darn it. I just closed that. I just remembered I didn't show you what it looks like to share an API key. So let me show you that really quick. So if you're sharing an API key, bring this back over. In AI settings, it will show you're using a shared API key. You'll notice there is a refresh, there is a test connection, there is not a favorite section. If you are using a shared API key, the person that shared the API key, you're going to be using their favorites. So if we come back to project here, and let's say I'm going to come down here. This is all nonsense. Oh, this is read only, so that would be a bad example. Okay, let me open one of my own projects. There we go. Ideas. Here we go. If I come here, I have access to the favorites that the admin of this has that shared the API key with me. And if I just do a new line here, so words before is just tell me the joke, and I go to prompts and I go and execute, boom, we can use AI. Now, if I revoke access, so let me minimize. So if we come back into the backend and I come here to collaboration, and I'm going to remove the API access. And if I come back here, do another new line, and I'm going to switch to quick and go. No API key configured. If I come back into settings and AI settings, it will no longer show that was shared. So you can revoke share of API key at any time. And that is really easy to do. And then if they want to use API, the AI use, then they can enter their own API key here per user. So that is a really easy way to control that. And again, you can do view only, you can do manuscript only, or you can do view only for the entire project, including the background information. You can do edit, you can do view all comments, and you can do sharing of the API key. You can also, really quickly, add share, select user. You can also share generation logs if you want. Now, if you're an admin user, you get to see everybody's. So if you're an admin user, you can see all users. You can minimize so that you can only show the other user. So you can see what they're doing. You can see their full responses, et cetera, and you can see the prompts that they're running. So if you're an admin user, you get full access to the generation logs. This will also help with shared access when I need to get access temporarily to your site to potentially do some bug fixing or some glitches. Sometimes it's very difficult to track down if I can't see what. So this will be really helpful. You'll give me temporary admin access so I can see everybody's generation logs and be able to track down potential errors. And so you can do that. And you can also see that in the settings, generation logs. You will see here, let's see. Yeah, so this is actually one of the other ones. Does it show? So I actually need to add user to this. So I can see everybody as an admin. The editors, on the other hand, can only see generation logs in the front end, and they can only see their own. So that is just a really nice little thing. So they can't see what you're generating. You can see what they're generating. All right. And we already kind of went over the commenting. You can do replies, you can do comments, you can resolve and reject. If you are doing the comment, I'll go back to project. If I am doing a comment, so if let me scroll down a little bit and go here and test. Okay, so I have this, and then I have here, so it shows you that it scrolls. Now, here it scrolls down here. Now, technically, you can just place your cursor and do comments. And right here, it just says comment. If I click here, it's not going to go anywhere because there wasn't highlighted text. So it doesn't have any idea of like where to scroll you to. So know that if you just have your cursor somewhere and you make a comment, it's about the overall document versus if you highlight something, then that is something that is, hey, is this correct? Let's do a grammar check here. This dialogue is flat, whatever the case may be. Okay, so that's just something to keep in mind. Also, you can show or hide resolved. So if let's show resolved. And if I resolve this, it shows as resolved and I can still see it. If I click here, that one hides, so I don't have to see the resolved comments. So if I've already taken care of that issue, I can resolve that right here. The next big one is the highlighter. So this is our highlight toolbar. You can drag this anywhere you want and you can keep it open. And so if I want to highlight all of this, and I already have a couple of these set, so I'm going to do this one. And if I click out, my mouse doesn't like to listen. This is a dialogue issue. And why do I know this is a dialogue issue? Because this little notification says so. But that notification comes from up here. So if I go to the settings cog on the toolbar, I can change the color. So I can change this to yellow, for instance. Dialogue issue. And that is what that is going to tell me when it goes like this and it says DI. If I come here, this is WTF. So I definitely will use this one. What is this? Do we keep it? What is this? And again, you can change the color on absolutely any and all of these to your heart's content. POV slip. And if you go to another one, you'll see that already applies. So that's a soft save. And then you want to make sure you hit save. And now you have this changed. Now this is still the old color. So if I want this to be a new color, I'm going to select none. So that takes off the highlight. And then if I want it to be the new color, that's the new color. And here we'll have POV slip. And again, if I hover, it tells me what that highlight means. And then this color with this line, with the primary line, this is a comment. So it's not going to, you can click it, but there's nothing to set up. But that is where it's going to save the location of your different comments. A tape? Okay. Let's see what else we have. So that's the floating highlight toolbar, and you can close out of that and when you are ready to not use it anymore. I liked having this just dockable because if I'm going through edits, I can just do that and then I can go through with my editor and be like, what do you think about these highlights? And again, they know what those highlights mean because of for one, this, and also for the edit. And then once it's been resolved, they can grab that text and then they can just remove the style. All right. Another nice little ad. There's going to be a separate video on this. But currently, if you are importing in projects, and I haven't found a better way of doing this, so that's not changing, but you can import projects in via JSON because you can export any of your paging polys as a JSON, or you can import a docx. If you import a docx, you basically want it formatted exactly the same as if you were doing a vellum formatting. What do I mean by that? That chapters should be H1s, and the chapter name should be the only H1 in the document. So any of your file names should be H1s. You can have H2s, H3s, up to your heart's content, as long as you make sure that the actual files are H1s. So typically that would be your manuscript, that would be your chapter files. And that is how the parser for the import works. So I'm going to show you this. This was an import. And so it is knowing that chapter 1, the silence that walked in, is the chapter. So that's a separate file. It's a chapter file. And this is the name of that file. And so it is going to import in all of the H1s as files in the manuscript folder, and it's going to be a chapter type. Now, if you are importing in a project that doesn't just have your manuscript in it, but also has story information, all you want to do is you want to make sure that story information, the name of the file that you want, is an H1, and then you do the import, same with the chapters. And it's going to be all chapter types. So to change one of these to a different type, so if this was actually an outline, and I click out, that's an outline, I can go to the 3 dots, I can change file type, and I can change it to outline. That is now an outline file, and I know because of the icon. I also know it's not a chapter because there is no chapter status dot to the left of it. So then I can drag it out of the manuscript folder, or I can move it. There we go. I can move it out of the manuscript folder, and now I have my story pieces. So that's a really easy way to do that. Just make sure, again, your files are going to be H1s. The name of that file is the H1, and then everything below the H1 until the next H1 is going to be the content of that file. And then you can change the file types via the 3-dot menu. Okay. Also, there was a glitch for chapter types. So I had fixed this glitch on all the other file types. I didn't realize the chapter file types, I think probably because of the status bubbles or something. It didn't fix on the chapter files. One of our lovely alpha testers also saw this just this morning, and I was like, oh, I just fixed that yesterday. So this is what would happen. You would have chapters turned on, and it would tell you that there is a gajillion words and a gajillion more tokens. And what it was doing is instead of actually adding the word counts together and then doing the tokenizer, it was doing, so if this was like 39 words and then 63 words and then 62 and then 86, so forth and so forth. That's what it was doing, is it was just appending that number to the number before it. And so that is now fixed. It won't show up like that anymore, and you don't have to worry about that. That has been repaired in this version. So if I turn on all of these, you'll see that is the correct number of words and tokens, not something really strange. Another thing that has been updated, if I come to chapter 1, actually this one's already showing. So these are already showing, but if it's not for you, all you have to do is come in here and do a manual save and it will update, is the word count in the document was not matching the word count in the document tree. And the one in the actual document was far more accurate. They're sometimes off by 1 or 2, but that is more accurate, so they now match. So that is not something to worry about. Another thing that some of you may have seen is after saving a generation, you would randomly have this instead of an actual line break. So instead of having a line break here, it would look like that. That has been repaired as well. So that's been fixed. So you shouldn't see that anymore. Okay. Another thing for the settings for the generation logs that is new is also the document. So it shows the document name and the document type. So that didn't used to show, and that does now show, so that you can also filter by project, by the name of the document, or by the model that you used. So if I change to OSS, it only shows me those. And if you do a filter, whether a date, a project, or document, so let me test him. So this is the test in project, and you can see that's only ones that are showing. And the updates, this updates the totals up here. So the totals now show whatever is filtered. So you can see total cost for a day, a week, a month, etc. across projects for just one project. Or similarly, you can do it for just one file. And actually, if I had Blueprint 2 in multiple files, in multiple projects, I could also do a project where both are true. And that automatically updates. And then I can clear all, and this goes to my all-time totals. Okay, so just another nice little thing for filtering. If you're just wondering, like, how much did I spend today? How much did I spend last week? You can do that really quickly here. For project totals, you can just come to the library, and this will be your project total right here. Also, really quickly, since we're in the library, there used to be recent, and the recent was based on the project being created, and that took me forever to notice. It just wasn't at the top of mind. So that has now been remedied. So it now shows recently edited. You can do that, or you can do last open. So whatever was last opened is the top, and then you can still do title, author, or by series. All right. And I actually think we made it through. Okay, so that is the grand total tour for... Oh, actually, I missed one. Okay, if I come back in here and I open my prompt doc, this is another little nice feature. So if I'm in classic mode and I click on a prompt, there's this estimated tokens. Right here, there's no model selected. So it says 128. So it used to say 128,000 for all models, which is obviously not true. So if I select this one, you'll see that changed to 131, which is the actual context limit of that model. And if I change again, this is the actual context, and again, etc., etc. Let me show you Gemini. There you go. So that actually shows real token context, and this percent gives you a general idea. I would always say err on the side of more with the models, because I swear the tokenizer for GPT tokenizer, or the OpenAI tokenizer, with the models updating, I swear that tokenizer is very much on the low side of what any of the models use. And typically it's a good 1 to 200 tokens more, and it could be up to double if it's a reasoning model. So just keep that in mind. If I was using Gemini 2.5 Pro or Gemini 3 Pro, or what's another one? Oh, the Grok 4.1 Fast is actually a reasoning model. I would know automatically this is about double. So this is probably 0.2%, not this. These are just to give you ideas. And in general, for the context limit, I would not want that to be anywhere on the higher side. I would want that to be 60%, 70% at most. And I would say 50 or under would be more ideal. Once you get into those higher percent numbers, you're at a much, much higher risk of hallucination, much higher risk of the model needing to use RAG in order to get background information that was earliest in the context that was sent. So just a word to the wise, I wouldn't really recommend even getting to 50%, to be honest. I would say 50% would be my outer limit, 60 to 70 absolute maximum. Again, especially considering that could even be double. So if you're at 50%, you might actually be at 100% of that if it's a reasoning model. So something to keep in consideration, but this is a nice little visualization where you know what that context is. And if you're ever wondering about the context or cost of a model, you can always see that right here in the AI model settings. It shows that first number is the context limit. The in is per million, the out is per million tokens. So that gives you a good idea. And each model has a different tokenizer internally. So that's another reason that these tokenizers are just bare bone estimates at best. So just keep that in mind. Those are not real tokens. And that's why having the real tokens coming from OpenRouter is a huge deal for really nailing in project costs, for real project costs. Okay, so we went over all the new features in version 2.1.1. We also went over a couple things that will be fixed by the next version, which the refresh models in the AI model settings, this one is not currently actually refreshing properly. So know if you need to refresh, do that from the AI settings tab. Instead, there will be a visual indicator in the next version for projects that are shared with you versus projects that are being shared. And there will be a user filter as well as a user column in the generation logs for admins to know what user these generations came from. Okay. And as always, if you are an alpha or now a beta tester of Paging Poly, if you find anything wonky, something doesn't look right or work right, you can always DM me in Discord, drop it in the Discord, or email us at hello@lunacco.design, LUNACCO.design. And we will look at getting that fixed. Usually we're pretty fast about it unless we're in the midst of a massive update, which does sometimes happen. But if we're in the midst of something, we'll usually do a branch off just to fix something like that. So still let us know, and we will give you a time estimate for that to be fixed. All right, and I will see you in the next one.